Alright, this is just a quick video on how to do branching. We have to branch the ICS application, so I thought it'd be an opportunity to just go over branching in case you aren't familiar with it. Uh, I've opened up Visual Studio and I've got the ICS project open. We already have one branch. When we originally made the product, we started it with a branch called main. This is a good way to set your projects up so that it's clear what the branches are as you add them, as you do enhancements. Um, the reason we're branching this, and this is the reason why you would branch most applications, is we have a production version out in the wild and we are getting enhancement requests. We can't really push defects. When defects come in, it's not easy to get that defect fixed and push that to production while we're doing the enhancements. The actual enhancements may interfere with the code for the defect. In order to resolve that, we will be doing our defect fixes on the main branch, and we'll be creating a new branch for our enhancements. So the first thing I did, I did before we started this video, was I went to the main branch and I just did a get latest all the way down. Paul's the primary developer on this, so I asked Paul before I started to do a solution down check-in of his project, and that's what we'll use to start this new branch. Branching can be found under branching and merging, surprise, surprise, and we're going to select branch. It's asking us what we're going to branch from, which version we'd like. If you've already got labels or specific check-ins that you want to branch from, you can do that. Typically, we just do it from the latest version. And we're going to call this Enhancements Period 1, and that's going to be the name of our new branch. This is just telling you what it's going to do on the server, and we're going to tell it yes. Alright, and here's everything that it copied. Not sure why it didn't auto merge here. We shouldn't have had a branch for it to merge from. Or it may have taken my source code and had to merge source code that was on my machine. Despite the fact that I had already told it to get latest version, I may have inadvertently had something checked out. That's another thing you want to do. I didn't do it here. If you have anything checked out on the branch you're merging from, you should go ahead and check it in. I'm just going to make a note of this so I can go back and check it later with Paul. Now, to access this branch, you have to add it to your workspaces. Here's the branch. right now, all of this is grayed out, and I don't have any of this locally. In order to do it locally, let's take a quick look here. And there's all I've got is the main branch. So I'm going to create a folder for this. I try to keep my local folders named the same thing as the branch. You can actually map your folder to anything. It won't care. But this just makes it clearer. So now I will go into workspaces. And I'm going to edit that local workspace. Actually, I've got ICS. I wonder if I can get it right from that. Okay, I had ICS mapped in my workspace out above the actual main branch. So it looks like all I'm going to have to do is tell it to get latest version, and it will go out, create the folder if it requires it, and download all the items. And we'll check on that as soon as it finishes here. Let me check that real quick while we're waiting. Now you see those folders are all enabled now because it's pulled copies down locally. And if we look, now we've got all our folders for the project and the solution. I'm going to go ahead and open that. We've got a errant file here that may not have been checked in. We can handle that later. But there's the solution. And this is a direct copy of what we had on the previous build. Now, a question a lot of people have when they're first introduced in this is, well, I had a defect and we fixed it. How do I move that over to my enhancement branch so that we don't have to manually code that. Uh, if you haven't made changes to the actual code you're working on in the other branch, in other words, whatever that particular class or form or page is, if that's not involved in your enhancements and you haven't made changes to it, then it's a pretty direct port, and I will show you. Let's just pick a class here and I'll put a comment in it. I don't want to do it on a page. Controllers. Save that. And I'm going to check it in. Excuse me. Alright, we've got our item checked in. So let's go back to Source Control Explorer and take a look at that class. Here's the asset controller. It's best to do this right after you make those changes and you move them to production, or after you've finished it and it's finished UAT testing, right after you check whatever it is you're working on in. That's the best time to merge it. That otherwise you may forget about it, and all of a sudden you're in a situation where you start getting bug reports on something you've already fixed, and it's because you didn't merge those changes over. Alright, branching and merging. Oh, it's still working. Alright, so branching and merging. Merge. It's going to ask you where you're coming from and where you're going to. And we're not going to main, we're going to the enhancements branch. Oh. You can also just type this in the box, but and we're doing the assets controller. Now it says that this is a warning saying that it hasn't established a relationship between these two branches. Uh, that's fine. It's going to ask us which version we want to merge, and yeah, we want the latest one. Some more prompts. Finish. Huh. Alright, I'm not sure why it's giving me that error. Go check that project and see if it actually did it anyway. Did I? Oh, I think I did it from the wrong. Alright, let's try this again. I may have attempted to merge it from wrong. That's better. Okay. Now you see it automatically came up. Also, I'd suggest after you do the merge, if you've got Visual Studio open, go ahead and close it and reopen it. It gets confused. Now, if you've added something new on your main branch that you're using for your patches, and you want that in your enhancements, that isn't merging. You have to physically actually move those files over to the new branch and add them. So you would add just physically file copy them from your main branch's project and copy those files over to the new project, and then go into the Solution Explorer and just tell it to add an existing item. All right, so it finished the merge. Let's go back and look at that class. Wrong one. All right, I'm going to close this up. There's our enhancements project. And let's go look at that class. You notice it automatically checked it out. When you merged it from the other branch, it checks it out. Uh, and you check that in once the merge is complete. And there's the code I added. And I can check that in or roll it back. If I roll it back, that means I'm not picking up that merged code. Another thing I do in my code comments, and if you're not using code comments, excuse me, not code comments, uh, source control comments, your check-in comments, I strongly encourage you to, is when I do check something in straight from a merge, I go ahead and I label that as merged. Um, if I'm troubleshooting and I have to go back to old versions of code, this gives me a clear indication of what happened. So we'll check that in, and that's it. And that's all I have right now on branching and merging. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm Brian Grant. Have a good day.